Hello, and welcome to the Badhumanist look at Rogue. So, this is going to be my summary video for Rogue. I have gotten all three Rogue specs up on my channel already, so again, if you're interested in any of kind of a very detailed, line-by-line, talent-by-talent look at the Rogue class as a whole, I would definitely recommend checking out those videos for whichever spec you are interested in. In this video, I'm going to give you more of an overview of the class as a whole. As I mentioned in my Hunter summary video, one thing I really want to be focusing on is the fact that with the change to the gearing system, with the loss of artifact weapon and with the loss of spec-specific legendaries, my hope is that we can be playing more than one spec easier. Right? You can play sub, or you could play assassination and go back and forth, fight the fight, and not worry about one being way behind gear level wise or have to put in that much extra energy to do so. So because of that, we might be doing that. So I want to say, okay, what does each spec really bring to the class as a whole? And I'm going to start off here with Outlaw. So Outlaw was a spec that I actually really enjoyed in Legion. It just did crappy damage. And so as a whole, I think they've done a lot to fix it. I hated Roll for the Bones. Previously, I was one of the people who immediately took Slice and Dice and just forgot about it because it felt horrible to roll and have to re-roll, to basically be wasting your combo points on re-rolling over and over again just to get buffs that were half decent. The buffs now are much better tuned, I would argue, and in general, I think they've done a much better job with making sure that you don't have that situation where you're going to be having to re-roll over and over again. Pretty much you're good to go with whatever comes up. There are definitely some that are better than others, but as a whole, it's not as big of a deal here. The other thing I really like about Roll the Bones is how there might be some min-maxing where, depending on what buffs show up, you actually change your rotation. And again, I talked about this in the Outlaw video, and I really like that type of engagement. The one thing that I've learned going through all these specs on the beta is it makes me kind of appreciate a sense of cooldowns that make you feel like something is changing. I think one of the complaints that I've had for a long time is that you would just macro your cooldowns together and you kind of didn't know you had them. They would basically be used off cooldown, and all of a sudden your damage meters would go up. And with the change to the GCD, which I know many people dislike, again, if you want my thoughts, check out my video on it, but one of the things that I said is that as long as I feel as if using the ability does something, I'm okay with it. If I have to use an ability and it just passively increases my damage, that's boring, and it feels bad. But if I can use a cooldown and it changes what I'm doing, that's kind of cool. And Outlaw definitely has that with Roll the Bones. It's a very unique cooldown, and again, it can be quite powerful. Again, I don't think you're going to be taking Slice and Dice, but as of right now, I think Slice and Dice's tuning is not strong enough to take over the other options here, which is good, because I like the Roll the Bones playstyle here a lot. Moving on to the next one here. Let me kill this dude first. So Assassination, I'll talk about next, and Assassination was a spec that I found to be quite interesting, quite engaging here. Let's switch that over here. Switch up my weapon. Now, one thing I thought was a bit interesting was its lack of overall stealth synergy. I mean, that's one thing I will say, is that the Rogue, from going from a spec that like stealth was everything to having, Outlaw be this kind of like not stealth brawler, to Assassination again being one where there's very little stealth synergy. I mean, pretty much all the stealth stuff is now in sub, and I don't know if I like that or I don't like that, but it definitely does make it a bit different, that's for sure. Assassination I liked a lot. Again, I thought that it, like Outlaw, had the right amount of abilities to manage. I felt that I was never overwhelmed by this spec. Again, I felt engaging. It has good synergies. It has good cooldowns, which again is a big thing for me. And as a whole, I really do think that Assassination has a lot going for it. Again, taking a look at the talents that I think are going to be kind of like the go-to set as of right now. We'll have to see how tuning scales these up as time goes on. But yeah, I do think that there's a nice synergy. I like the change of the mastery going from being just poisons to poisons and bleeds. So now it actually feels better to kind of use your bleeds. In the past, bleeds just wouldn't scale because they didn't scale with mastery, basically. It has a blindside, which again I think is a very nice ability here. They recently just tuned this. I still think it's a very good ability, though I will admit that the other two might end up being better, especially Master Poisoner. This could very easily be better, especially in this kind of poison type build. But the fact that there might be two viable builds, right? You might have the poison build, and then you might have the Crimson Tempest Accentuate kind of bleed build, I think might actually be interesting. And it might even be, that the bleed build is like your Mythic Plus build, and your poison build is your raid build. And that'd be really cool, right? To be able to kind of play two different builds, two different play styles, depending on what you're doing. I think that that's always a lot of fun, and to have two very unique approaches in the same spec is nice. There's so few specs out there that actually have good choice. Now again, this could all end up being false because Blizzard doesn't tune their numbers right, and it turns out there only is one viable setup. But hopefully they do allow for at least some degree of variation in different playstyles. The last one I'm talking about is sub, and I'm ending with sub because sub is a spec that I really want to revisit. It was a spec that took me a good while to kind of get a hang of, and it really also made me wonder what that missing talent is going to end up being. So again, taking a look here at sub. Sub for me was probably the hardest of the three specs to play. It was the one that requires the most plate spinning to do, and the fact that it revolves around Shadow Dance made it unique, right? Shadow Dance is what makes sub again unique. The fact that again your rotation changes in the dance, and again there's ways of talenting so that basically all your damage is coming out of that window. So again, you could take Dark Shadow, which increases your damage while the dance is active. You could take Night Stalker, which again increases your damage in Shadow Dance as well, to kind of give yourself a super powered Shadow Dance. The only issue I found right now is I need more haste. So this is a spec that I really felt with my crappy 200 eye level gear, I just don't have enough haste in this setup to make it work. So again, I do not think this is going to be the actual talent build. I don't think Alacrity was going to be the best. I think either Enveloping Shadows or Dark Shadows would be better, but I just felt like I needed the haste to make the rotation work. Same thing with Shadow Focus. The only reason why I took this was I found that I couldn't do any damage in the Shadow Dance window because I didn't have enough focus to kind of get my abilities off. Again, I definitely think that either of these two, Night Stalker or Subterfuge, could be stronger, could be better if I had more haste, right, and had more energy regen, not focus, but energy regen. But yes, that is sub. Again, I really am looking forward to this coming soon because in the 100 row, you have basically this is clearly for AoE, and I guess this is going to be good for single target. So I'm very interested to see what that coming soon talent is. And this is definitely a spec that I plan to revisit later on in the beta, possibly when they add in that talent to kind of give it a re-evaluation, saying, okay, what do we got going on now? Now we have that talent in there, maybe they've done some more balancing or tuning of the abilities and such. What do we have going on? Because this was a spec that I found fun and engaging, but definitely a bit of a handful, and I'm interested to see if they can make what I would argue to be some of the funner gameplays work. I don't think that Alacrity Shadow Focus is the most engaging gameplay. I think either Dark Shadow with Night Stalker or again Enveloping Shadows with something maybe like Subterfuge would be better. The idea being that this combination would be extending the duration or how much time you're in that window. So basically you're going to be in the dance for longer because again you can use your stealth abilities for longer with Subterfuge, and again you get another charge of Shadow Dance here, and again it lasts for additional you reduce the cooldown faster with Deepening Shadows. Or the Night Stalker Dark Shadow build, which is basically going to be a you don't go into Shadow Dance as frequently, but when you're in there, you do a buttload of damage. So again, I think either of those two would be more engaging than what I have here, which is kind of a I need more I need more energy build, which again, like I said, I think is just a matter of me having a lack of haste. So what are your thoughts on Rogue? Again, Rogue is the only pure DPS spec that is all melee. Again, you have Survival and Hunter as well, but as far as your pure DPS, Rogue is the only one that gives you the choice of 3 different melee classes. So if you're a melee DPS player, what do you think? Do you like the utility? Do you like the different spec damage? What spec are you going to play? Are you looking forward to one more than any of the other ones? I hope to see your comments down below in the comment section. We can get some good discussion going there. Again, if you liked it, give me a like. If you dislike it, give me a dislike. Maybe subscribe. I got a bunch of Warlock videos coming out next. So again, you're going to be seeing the remaining 2 Warlock spec videos here in the next week, and then a Warlock summary, and after that I'm moving on to Mage. So that's what's going on my channel in the next week or so. Hope to see you in those later videos.